I've once again 1 a.m. live streams. I'm thinking about changing up the schedule a little bit. If you are subscribed to me or on my email list, I should say, you should be getting an email this weekend. Certainly 1 a.m. live streams make a lot more sense than 1 a.m. live streams on Friday make a lot more sense than doing it other times of the week. So I may, hello, Mr. Keeps. So what you may see me doing is doing more 1 a.m. live streams on the weekend, and on the weekdays, sticking to 1 p.m. Live streams. I think. Haven't decided for sure yet. I will let you all know, but you should be getting an email this week about everything I have coming up and the schedule. So stay tuned for that. We got the hearts. That's from Smokey, I'm guessing, and it's wonderful to have him. That's usually the telltale sign of Smokey the Clown. Did you get? Yes, I did. Mr. Keeps, much appreciated. I appreciate both the package and you sending me that email. Tomorrow, 7 a.m. To 11. So I'll do my best to, I'm sure I'll be there to grab it. So thank you so much for that. I hope everybody is doing well tonight. Let's give it a few minutes. Let's see who joins. On that email I'm going to send out, you're also going to be reminded of the potential scheduled joint live stream between myself and Smokey the Clown on September 29th at 12 o'clock. So that should be a lot of fun. That's my personal channel, youtube.com/Cameron Adamson. That'll just be us hanging out. And then, like I said, everything else I have coming up, I'm going to have some special events, special streams, special content on the 14th of September, the 19th of September, the 20th of September, and the 21st of September. So all of that is going to be awesome. And for now, though, let's just wait to see who jumps on and let's chat about Freemasonry. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry? Again, positive, negative, or neutral. I'd love to hear it. And thank you so much, everybody who's joined so far. By the way, I may play it. I don't think I'll be hit with copyright. A YouTuber I really like by the name of Cody Leach. He does movie reviews. He reviewed The Long Walk, and he actually touched on a lot of the very same things I've been talking about when it comes to the idea of making friends, friendship, even when friendship is hard, even when friendship seems to be counterproductive or counterintuitive, why it is in fact not the case. And he tied it into what we've been seeing this week with either the political assassinations or school shootings or just violence in general, in a really, I thought, eloquent way. So I may actually play that portion of his review. And I may also clip that portion of the review and put it on my socials. But you should all subscribe, Cody Leach, at Cody Leach YT. But yes, Mr. Keeps, again, I did get your email. Truly appreciated. It's incredibly kind of you. It'll make my birthday extra special, I have no doubt. And Smokey, how is it going for you? Welcome. If you're just joining us, please take a moment, hit the like and subscribe button. I'm not sure if that's true, Mr. Keeps. Like when I say that, obviously, I mean, part of the issue is the type of guns, right? I think that's a really big issue that we don't talk about enough. To my understanding, and I'm not a gun expert by any means, but the type of guns that are available in 2025, both in terms of the number of rounds that can be let off combined with the accuracy by which they can be shot, combined with being relatively less expensive than they were in the 1950s. I think the type is very different. Numbers wise, I have no clue. But even numbers wise, like I believe right now there's number of guns in the U.S. By year. I do not have a gun. I personally am not a fan of guns myself. I know there's a lot of gun people who support it. Never been a big fan of them myself. Um, but would the average person have access to those versus now, right? Because I mean, the ability to, it's more a cost effective thing, right? Like, um, it's no different than explosives, right? They've had explosives forever. They've had dynamite forever. The ability for the average person to access it, either from a financial standpoint or just, how good the technology was. I mean, as technology improves, by definition, I would think technology as it relates to guns would improve as well. Both technology in terms of the ability to fire rounds in a smaller, in a smaller or a more compact gun. The accuracy of the guns is going to be more accurate. I mean, supposedly, I don't know if this is true or not, but supposedly, the shot that killed Charlie Kirk was 200 yards away. I'm sure it was very possible for somebody in the 1920s and 1950s to make a shot at 200 yards away, but I suspect it was probably much, much harder than it is in 2025 because expecting the guns in the 1920s and 1950s to be much less accurate over time. I feel like 200 yards is pretty decent. I mean, I shouldn't say I've never. I've shot guns before. I went to a gun range once for a friend's. It was his bachelor party, and he wanted to have it at a gun range. So we did. We went to a gun range. Uh, I think the furthest we shot from was, I don't even know, to be honest, maybe 50 yards, and I could barely hit that, let alone 200. Um, how much would it cost, right? Here's how easy was it to get it in World War One? How much would it cost? How much would the bullets cost? How accurate was it? I mean, I just suspect guns in 2025 are better than they were in 1920s, right? Um, I could be wrong, but I suspect the technology, the availability, the ubiquitousness, as well as the cost. So I suspect the technology has gotten better and the cost has gotten cheaper. But having said that, I mean, I'm not a proponent of guns at any point, whether it's the 1920s or the 2000s or the 3000s for that matter. So it's not as though I'm saying it's a good thing that guns were ubiquitous in the 1950s. Uh, uh, but I mean, it'd be hard for me to argue that guns have not gotten better over time. The problem is a better gun means it's easier to kill somebody by definition, right? I don't know what else a better gun would mean. Thompson with the drum mags. Well, I mean, how big was the Thompson with the drum mag? I mean, yeah, I guess I'm kind of going off topic in some ways as well because I'm not saying, guns. I'm fine with guns in the 19. That's one of those old gangster guns, right? Like the ones you'd see in the movies. I'm not saying I like the idea of people having guns in the 1920s and don't like them having guns in the 2000s. I mean, I think in general, this is just my personal opinion. I don't speak for Freemasonry. I think the Second Amendment is a crazy idea. I mean, I can understand the logic of the Second Amendment when it was written in the 1700s, not for the purpose by which it was written or said to be written, but I can understand the policy reasoning behind it at the time. It seems crazy um, in 2025. Well, you're not wrong. I mean, Mr. Keeps, you're not incorrect. how do we judge, though? Because what was a deranged person in the 1920s versus welcome spirit, thank you for being here. And then I don't know because I don't know if people were keeping statistics of certain things. I will say in 2025, it feels as though various factors, including but not limited to social media, are encouraging, call it derangement, call it, I don't know, pick your term, encouraging, um, even I would say a certain nihilism, I think is maybe a better term amongst people. But also, to what extent is that a reflection of society failing individuals and individuals then feeling the need to want to burn it all to the ground, right? Like, mystical is not completely wrong. I have my concerns about social media as somebody who's very much on social media often. I have my concerns about it. Um, this is why you talk about Freemasonry a lot, right? Like, it's funny. I remember a few, sort of been about 2 years ago, give or take, my mom passed away. And I was going through a bunch of old photo albums. And I came across a bunch of pictures of my mom and dad when they were probably, I don't know. I'm, you can see me in the picture with the bottle, unless they had another kid I don't know about, also with no legs. So I'm assuming it's me, who was, so I looked about 2 years old, if that. So this would have been 85, 86. But it's my mom and my dad, and my dad's got a beer, my mom's got a glass of wine, and I've got my bottle, and they're in like a group. It looked like they're having a party or get together in the basement of their house, of my house, and my dad was laughing, my mom was laughing. And I was thinking about like what it is, like what was happening in that picture. When you think about it, what was happening in their lives at the time that gave them that kind of look of happiness. Well, my dad had, a good job that was unionized, which meant he knew that he was protected, relatively speaking, from the whims of his bosses, and that had good benefits for him, both medical and dental and otherwise, to take care of not just himself, but his wife and me, his kid. He had a kid who was lucky enough to be born in Canada, where he knew that he would be getting medical treatment. Even if my dad lost his job, heaven forbid, he knew that I would have access to free medical care. That I was already getting free medical care, even me with no legs, who maybe needed more medical care than most kids, um, had access to that. He had neighbors that he trusted to take care of him, and he knew them. He trusted the government, relatively speaking, right? He got vaccinated when he was supposed to. He got me vaccinated. He wasn't thinking the government was out to get him. He had social trust, both in institutions and his neighbors, and his coworkers. Um, and the same thing with my mom. It was the same thing. She looked happy in that picture for probably the same reasons. Yes, they had a kid who was missing his legs, but that kid also had access to medical care for universal health care. She had a job. She was making money. Um, she had trust in her neighbors. She had trust in the institutions of society. And so when people feel like those things are not available, um, they turn to Andrew Tate. They turn to uh, people on the left wing, trying to think of like a left wing equivalent to Andrew Tate, whomever. They turn to Nick Fuentes, they turn to Candace Owens, they turn to people who tell them, don't trust this group, don't trust that group, don't trust X, don't trust Y. Um, and they feel like there's no hope except to burn the thing down, which is really dangerous. Or I'm trying to think of like an equivalent on the left. um, it's hard because they're not as main like the left wings. Like I can't think of them by name. I just see them on TikTok spouting nonsense, but I don't know their name. They don't have like the same level of reach, right? Even if you're not politically paying attention, you probably know who Candace Owens is. I can't even think of somebody on the left who has that reach, who, for example, believes the moon landing was fake or something to that extent. Um, so yeah, and so you take that, you take a loss of social fabric, a loss of social cohesion, people feeling alone, people not trusting their neighbors, people not trusting the government, people not trusting that systems will work for them, and then that breeds nihilism, that breeds despair, that breeds despondency, and you also combine that with no healthcare available. So if you are struggling with mental health issues, maybe you mental health issues that could be resolved through therapy, through medication, but you can't get it because you don't have insurance, whatever it is, like these things are unfortunately going to happen. It's scary. But I think, as I said, all I can do is, I have a certain idea as to the way I'd like the world to be and the way I would hope the world to be. Um, and for better or worse, it's kind of my responsibility to fight for that better world and to become the best kind of debater, the best arguer, not arguer, to become the best I can at expressing my views of how I want the world to be and hoping I can encourage others to view the world in the same way through persuasion and rhetoric, which actually is a Masonic idea. Um, of course, I wish everybody disagreed with me automatically, and I wish that there weren't, the Charlie Kirks arguing the other side of it, but that's not fair to expect, right? People get the chance to express their opinions, and if I want my as this goes by, if I want my viewpoint to win the day, and if I want my view of the world to kind of hold sway, then it's my responsibility to learn how to debate, learn how to argue, learn how to make others see my point, and not rely on violence or intimidation to try to silence people. I understand that some people feel like that's the way, but ultimately it's not for obvious reasons. It doesn't actually solve any problems, and it just ends up coming back on you. Um, and that's again why I love Freemasonry so much, because I think Freemasonry, if people are struggling, if people are lonely, if people feel like they don't have trust in society, in institutions, Freemasonry hopefully can restore that trust in individuals and that trust in communities. Either it can restore it through, bringing in members who see people of different faiths and beliefs and political persuasions working together and relying on rhetoric and not other ways to accomplish things. Or even if they don't want to join, they just see that an organization exists in which such things are possible. And that gives them hope that within their own life, such things are possible and violence is not the answer. If anything I said there made any sense. But Mr. Keeps, you're not wrong. This is not a single issue problem. I do believe guns are a problem, but that is not exclusively a problem. It's guns combined with mental health, combined with the loss of social cohesion, combined with economic factors, combined with mental health factors, everything kind of coming together at once. But certainly having an increased number of guns floating in the ether, I don't think helps anything either. How is it going? High altitude investing. We actually had somebody else on stream this afternoon who was really interested in cryptocurrency. So I mentioned you and I told him to check out your channel. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons for school shootings as well, but I think it comes down to the same thing: increasing nihilism resulting from a lack of trust and a lack of faith in society and in our institutions. And when you have that, a natural tendency can be to feel as though it's better to just burn things down than try to build, because it's easier to do that, you know? But I think, again, the solution are things like making sure everybody has access to medical care, both physical care and mental health care, encouraging institutions and institutional support, both at the civic level and civil level. Um, um, Showing people that it is possible to exist beyond both the internet and exist beyond the divisions that we see, as much as you possibly can. But social media is not, social media is definitely not the most helpful thing in a lot of these circumstances as well. But again, that's why I think Freemasonry is so important, because Freemasonry exists outside of social media. Not that there aren't Freemasons on social media, not that there aren't Freemasons that use social media to great advantage to the craft, but I think we need to recognize there needs to be actual spaces where we're off our phones, off social media, with other people of differing opinions that we can trust. Because one of the biggest issues with social media, right, is you can curate your friends or your contacts so they all agree with you, which is a scary thing, right? You can just say, well, I want to exclusively hear from people on the right, on the left, and so I'm going to curate my friends list so I see those voices and I don't need to interact with anybody with whom I disagree. Whereas in a Masonic lodge, you have to interact with people you like and you don't like. Um, but you have to respect them, or at least you don't like their opinions, but you still have to respect them. You still have to work with them, and you still have to do your best to build something with them. So, Mystical, how's it going though? Thank you for being here. Same with Spirit. It's great to have you join. Mr. Keeps Nightwing, it's great to have you here as well. Thank you for joining. I think Nightwing, you might be new to the stream. If you are, please hit that like and subscribe button. And let's give it a few minutes. Let's see who else joins. This is going to be a shorter stream. We're going to probably finish about 40 minutes in. Tomorrow, or this weekend, you should be getting an email from me. So check your inboxes, check your spam folders. Um, about some upcoming events I have streaming. There's going to be something special on September 14th, something special on September 19th, September 20th, and September 21st. And September 22nd, which is my birthday as well. So there you go. But how to investing, how's it going for you? Did any of the things that you'll either get it tomorrow or Sunday? I'm not sure which email. I guess technically September 14th is tomorrow because today is 1 a.m. When I said, the stream will be out September 14th. The email, I believe I'll send the email out on Sunday as well. Maybe scheduled to be released at 6 p.m. Eastern, and the mutual stream will be 7 p.m. Eastern. Me and a good friend of mine, he's one of the best people I know, worshipful brother, uh, Igor Strukan. And maybe what I'll do is I'm going to actually play this. Cody, please don't copyright me, but this is something Cody Leach said. You should all subscribe to him. He's a really cool dude. I like his reviews a lot. But this is what I was talking about with the long walk. And I think it's really applicable to what I was saying about this challenge of making friends and why it's important that we make friends, even if we have disagreements or struggles. And he's reviewing The Long Walk 2025 that just came out. Oops.
Is it just me or do these jeans?
Well, this is an advertisement. So we'll let that end. This is another advertisement. Okay. Okay, here we go. This should be it.
This is a movie that I said at the beginning of this review hit me on an emotional level more than any other film that I've seen so far in 2025.
I've actually got YouTube Premium, but not on this, not on the account I'm using right now. I have YouTube Premium on my personal account. You'd think I should get it for this account, to be honest. I could probably use it as a write-off.
And unfortunately, I think one of the reasons that is the case is because of the timing of this movie's release. It's been a pretty horrifying week plus here in the United States. Every week is horrifying somewhere in the world, but specifically the last week and a half around here has been pretty ruthless. And I'm not going to go on any kind of a big political slant or tangent, so don't worry. You guys know I avoid that like the plague. But something that was very eye-opening and pretty depressing and even borderline terrifying to me is that with the types of things that have been happening around us in this country very recently, whether it's a mass shooting, which almost seems weekly at this point, whether it's somebody being brutally killed in a subway car for no apparent reason, or a political person being assassinated publicly. Even more brutal and terrible.
Well, it's not been a bad week for me personally. I'm loving being with you guys, loving being here. But this reviewer, Cody Leach, is talking about the news stories, the slaying on the subway train, or in Charlotte, school shooting, the political assassinations, and kind of the toll it's taking on him as it comes to, and he was thinking about that while watching this movie, The Long Walk.
Terrifying than those events themselves, for me, was seeing the types of reactions that people have had to it, the dark side of social media, if you will, where something that on its surface I can only interpret as horrifying, to see that 100% across the board that was not everybody else's reaction to things like this, and we have so many different people who range from either being completely indifferent to it all the way to the point of mockery and even celebration in one case. To me, that's terrifying. To me, that is more of a look at how far some of us have fallen as human beings. Say what you will about who you respect, who you have empathy for. That's not really what I'm talking about. But the fact that you have something that was one of the most brutal images that I have seen in recent memory that I honestly wish that I hadn't seen, to immediately see that shortly after, true story, by opening up TikTok and having somebody had recreated that into a parody joke using Fortnite. That's a very scary world that I now know that I live in, where people dying is so commonplace and is so dismissed by everybody that there's not just common indifference where it's just another day in the life in this world, but all the way to the point where something that brutal and that evil causes people to have a catalyst for humor and mockery, and even just using it as a chance to push whatever their beliefs are on either side. That's a fucked up world that I don't want to live in, and I do. And that's a world that I'm leaving my kids in. That's a world that I'm eventually going to have my grandkids in. And I can only hope that it gets better. But as far as the relation to this film, which is what I'm getting at here, there's a moment in this movie that was the most powerful moment to me. And I don't think you're going to see many people call this out because it's just a simple dialogue exchange. It's not one of the more overt, flashy moments of the film. It's not even one of the more dramatic moments of the film. But after I think the second or third person is shot in the story, you have the two main characters, Ray and Pete, have this dialogue exchange where Pete turns and he says, I really hope that that starts to get easier, witnessing or at least knowing somebody was murdered behind them. And Ray's response is, that's actually my biggest fear. One character hoping that the world that they live in being so devastating and grim and filled with evil that they hope they get to a point where it no longer bothers them as much, and having another character's response be, me getting to that point where this stuff behind us becomes commonplace, where I'm numb to it, that's more terrifying to me than dying. That moment hit hard. Hey.
Well, so I mean, I really like what Cody says. I'm going to be clipping that and sharing it. It's not about crying for, I mean, anybody, right? Like I'm not crying for Charlie Kirk. I'm not crying for I'm not shedding tears. It's more I'm not celebrating it either, right? Nor do I want to become numb to the reality of it. Whether it's, and again, it's not exclusively, it's Charlie Kirk, it's the lady on the subway car, it's the fact that there was a school shooting in Colorado at the same time. It's this idea of when you keep seeing and hearing about all of these stories, you can become numb to it or even find it something to be humorous or make jokes about, which I've been seeing as well on social media. And the point is, you don't ever want it to get to that point where um, you can find it something worth making fun of or whatever it might be, right? You still want to recognize on some level that it's still a human being, human beings at the end of the day behind this, right? And you see this across the spectrum. Um, well, no, I wouldn't go that far either, Nathan. Spirit has the right to feel how he feels, and if he, that's it's okay. I'm not going to knock him for that. I'm just going to say me personally, right? Like I said, it's not about crying or not crying. It's about recognizing the humanity, especially when you see the video. I don't know how many people saw it, but the blood, the blood that came gushing out. It was very graphic in a way that with other school shootings, or I guess technically this was a school shooting, but with other shootings in general, you don't thankfully you don't see the actual wounds. Maybe if we did, we'd have more empathy for those as well, in a weird way, or we talk about them more. But I mean, I'm not gonna. Spirit is welcome to his opinion, right? One of the things is with freedom of speech means freedom of speech across the stream, with some exceptions for insults, things like that. But otherwise, but I think the whole point he's trying to get to, and this is something Masonically as well, right? There are many brothers um, with whom I greatly disagree, but I will still be saddened if I ever were to lose them, especially if I were to lose them through violence or through, it's one thing to. I mean, I guess death is always sad, but if somebody passes away due to old age, I think it's a little bit of a different feeling than if someone or whatever comes with old age versus um, assassination, right? Or anything like that. I mean, again, Spirit, it's one of those things where I can understand the idea of live by the sword, die by the sword. I'm not saying I don't understand the logic of if you're, let's say, pro gun, then if you are killed by a gun, it's like, well, I can understand kind of the logic of that, but it's very cold-hearted logic to me because ultimately it's just it's very dangerous road to go down, right? Um, because once you start to make those judgments and make those assumptions, it becomes incredibly dangerous, right? So, for example, you could argue. So let's use me as an example, right? Um, right. I'm always arguing about the importance of being healthy, trying to be healthy physically, take care of yourself. I also eat um, really badly, right? That's probably my biggest area of kind of that's my biggest area of weakness, right? Is my diet. If I end up having a heart attack because of my poor diet, can the doctors say to me, well, you made the choice to put these things into you, so we're not going to treat you or care about making you better? Like, that can't be how it works, right? You can't be cold blooded or cruel about these things. You have to be willing to um, work with people and you have to allow the humanity to come through, right? Um, and so again, because I understand the logic of saying, if somebody supports, um, let's say, unlimited access to firearms, which I don't know if Charlie Kirk supported unlimited access to firearms, but if somebody supports access to firearms and then they die through firearms, it's like, okay, I can understand kind of a cold hearted logic in that, but that's a very dangerous and very cold hearted way to go, right? The same example would be, again, like I said, if I'm eating nothing but junk food all day, every day, and then I end up in the hospital needing health care, the doctor shouldn't say, well, live by the junk food, die by. That's not how it works. There needs to be a moment of shared humanity, right? Um, well, I don't think words and discussions are the same as murder. Um, I think what he's saying is, again, so the way I take it again is well, I'll use a personal example from my life. I knew somebody. He's a good friend of mine, actually. I did really, really like him. Still, I say in the past tense, he's still around, thankfully. But for a good period of time, he was making a lot of really, really bad choices and bad decisions around his health. And I would talk to him and try to get him to change his actions and change his behaviors. And he never did. And eventually, he did, as everybody thought, ended up in the hospital, nearly died. Thank God, thank heavens for our doctors and nurses and healthcare system that brought him back. This idea of it's like poetic justice or something, right? You can't think that way. And again, I'm not suggesting that it's a matter of there are some people um, who I'm not saying this is Nathan or Mr. Keeps or anything like that. There are definitely some people I think who are both on social media who are being performatively, who are showing a lot of performative grief because they want to get the clicks and the likes from people on the right wing. I also think there are a lot of people on the left who actually don't care that much either, but are showing a lot of performative um, celebrations because they know that'll get the people on the left to like them and also piss off the people on the right. Sometimes with social media, what you see is, right, it's just as important to get people upset at you as to like you. And that's possible. But, right, at the same time, I wouldn't say, I'm not a fan of the argument of, and I've heard other people say this, right, live by the sword, die by the sword. I think first that's kind of a cold-blooded calculation to make. Um, um, and I think that it once you start going down that path, it becomes we'll all fall short. It's kind of like, again, not to get religious because I'm not a religious expert, but this idea in, I think it's Christianity primarily, but I think it's in other religions as well. The idea of once we start judging people in terms of what they deserve or don't deserve, as opposed to just trying to help people and work with people, we all fall short, right? Certainly, there's been plenty of times where I could have found myself in a lot of trouble, but thankfully was the grace of strangers and the forgiveness of people around me helped me get through it. And I think the same thing with everybody, right? We can't live in a society of deciding who is deserving of this punishment or that punishment. I think, generally speaking, our role in society should be to try to help those around us, and leave those judgments to other people. And certainly, we should not be judging people to the extent where either A, we're killing them, or B, we're celebrating their death, because that leads to a um, pretty dangerous society. I think he's in custody right now, funny Republican. Well, Mr. Keeps, I mean, again, I would say to defend Spirit a little bit, I talked about this on my earlier stream. I think what Spirit is trying to say, at least what I got, I know he's not equating it, but when you say, when Charlie Kirk said a certain number of gun deaths are acceptable to preserve the Second Amendment, that's the type of thing that, if somebody says that, it's like, well, it's a dangerous it's a dangerous way to think, because my assumption is Charlie Kirk maybe thought that or felt that he would never be one of those gun deaths. Right? It's a risk for society to have that view, in my opinion, right? Because once you start to say a certain number of gun deaths are acceptable, even for the freedom that he felt the Second Amendment afforded him, which deaths are acceptable, right? And I think no deaths are acceptable, right? So I'm not, but again, those type of judgments, it becomes very, very cold-hearted. And certainly, as I said, even though I was no fan of Charlie Kirk, his wife didn't say that. His kids didn't say that, right? And his wife deserves, deserves her husband, and his kids deserve a father, right? And it's if even however you may feel about him, the family, right? Well, yes, that is true, right? But you could argue, and again, I'm not making this argument because I think it's cold-hearted, but I can see the logic behind it. So if I say a certain number of car deaths are acceptable, because cars are important, and then I die in a car accident, from a very cold-hearted perspective, you could say, well, Cameron did say a certain number of car deaths are acceptable to continue using cars, so he died in a car accident, so that's what he gets, right? Whereas, and I got what he was trying to say, but I think, when, it's again, it's just a very cold-hearted approach to take, right? Again, you could do this across the board for almost anything, right? That's why it's so dangerous. You could do it with healthcare, right? You could say a certain number of heart attacks are necessary to preserve the freedom of being able to eat what I want. But then if I eat what I want and have a heart attack, the doctor should still treat me, right? He shouldn't say, well, I'm not going to treat you because you said this was acceptable. So it's one of those things where I can understand what Spirit is trying to say with that, but I just don't think we can make those judgments. Otherwise, it all kind of falls apart, right? Because even now, I've heard people making judgments against the poor lady on the train in Charlotte, which I don't know if it's true or not, but some people on social media posted that she had like a Black Lives Matter poster or something, this lady, and so therefore she got what's coming to her. Like, it's crazy, right? We can't live in a society that makes those judgments, right? And Freemasonry does encourage us to not make those judgments, to recognize on some level that we're all a rough ashler trying to be better, and to extend forgiveness for the faults of others, as a general rule. And it's easy to not do that, but I guess that's my opinion on that. I would agree there's no justification for murder. I mean, I've never believed there's a justification for murder. Right? I also agree with Nathan that God will be his judge, not us. I'm not saying, by the way, I'm against like punishment, but I don't think. How do I put this? I think there should be a difference in society between. Oh, actually, let me rephrase. Hello, Ryan. How's it going? Sorry, Nelson. I got a Coke. I'm trying to think of how to describe this. Maybe I actually don't believe in punishment from a societal perspective. Exactly. I'm trying to think of the word I would use. So here's what I believe. There are many valuable reasons to put somebody in custody, into a jail, right? It can be because they're a danger to others. It can be because, in some cases, they might be a danger to themselves, and they need to be monitored, and jail may be the best place to monitor them. In some cases, it may be because they are, awaiting trial for a criminal act, and there's concern that they may not show up to court or not show up to trial. You put them in jail for that. And it may be because we as a society have decided to, that some actions are not acceptable, and we need to demonstrate that it's not acceptable by removing somebody's freedom. But at no point should it be done purely for a matter of punishment or a matter of wanting to extract a pound of flesh, right? There should always be some other reason behind it. And when they're in custody, and I always had this attitude when I was a probation officer, when I was in jail, they have responsibility to act in a manner that's respectful of the correctional officers, of the institution they're at, of the other inmates that are around them. But society, because we've taken away the freedom, has a responsibility to provide opportunities for education, to provide a clean environment, to provide a safe environment, to provide a relatively healthy environment. Any punishment on a moral level should be left up to a supreme being or to a God, or pick your term. Supreme being, God, whatever you want, right? I don't think I'm in a position to morally judge anybody necessarily, but I do think I'm in a position to recognize when someone is a danger to themselves or others, or recognize when an action is significantly harmful enough that we need to have a deterrent, again, through jail. It doesn't have to be exclusively through jail. It can be through jail, through probation, through community service. Take your pick, right? But the legal repercussions should be done here on earth. The moral repercussions should come from above. I mean, I suppose, I don't know if I'd use that term, Mr. Keeps barely believe. I mean, I definitely believe in a supreme being. That's why, for example, I feel like I'm able to live an ordered life, because there's an ordered universe. I don't believe the supreme being is performing miracles. I guess it'd be like what's the word? Like a Jeffersonian approach. Because I've learned that Thomas Jefferson wrote a Bible where he removed all the miracles. I think that might be um, somewhat of the approach I would take to it. So maybe I'm a Thomas Jefferson. Well, fair enough, I guess. Well, I mean, you're all wrong, though, for the record. Spirit and Nathan, you're both incorrect. And I don't think his opinions are stupid. I think Spirit is incorrect, but I don't think I wouldn't use the term stupid. I think he's just incorrect. The actual term for Freemason, this is kind of a fun little side note. Um, the actual term Freemason, there's two possibilities of where it comes from. The most common explanation is Freemason actually refers to a certain type of stone called a called freestone. It was a type of limestone that was very challenging to work with, so it was called freestone because you could pull it out of the quarry where like it wasn't you didn't have to chisel it out, you could just pull it out, but it was so difficult to work with that only a certain type of mason could work with it, and those were called freemasons because it was free stone. That's the most common explanation. So it references a type of free stone that only specialized masons could use. That's why in some manuscripts, sometimes you'll see them refer to masons, and these are like before Freemasonry, my Freemasonry existed. Sometimes you'll see them refer to masons as in like sometimes they'll refer to masons and sometimes freemasons. Um, and the idea was Freemasons were the better um, the better type of stonemason. The other idea of where Freemason comes from is the idea that you were free once you became a master mason. You were then free to travel throughout Europe in order to to make your wages. So when you were an entered apprentice or a fellow craft mason, you had to stay with your trade guild as a way to you had to stay with your trade guild. You couldn't travel somewhere to work. But once you became a master mason, you were then a free mason, really a fellow craft, to be honest. There was no master mason at the time. Once you were a fellow craft mason, you could then travel to collect wages outside of your guild um, in order to make your wages. So, there's two possibilities. And at no point was it a servitude, because even if you're an apprentice, you weren't an indebted servant, you were an apprentice, eventually becoming a fellow craft in order to be free to travel. Um, Righteous anger does not equate unhappy. That is true. Righteous anger can sometimes be a very valuable and motivating factor. You want to be very careful, though, that the anger does not outweigh the righteousness. And Spirit, you do, you know, well, actually, I do like the Voltaire quote. I know that quote. Um, as you know, I'm a big Enlightenment fan. Um, but I mean, again, I'm not going to tell anybody. I think we're all. Here's what I'd say, as I've said before: we're all rough ashlers. We're all trying to get better. Um, Freemasonry, it's about a lot of different things. A lot of people would say it's primarily about brotherly love, relief, and truth. As always, though, the question comes when people are speaking, if they are speaking what they believe to be the truth, does that, like, it's really hard. The thing about Masonic ritual and tenets is they're open to a lot of different interpretations. That's one of the beautiful things about the craft. How I interpret Freemasonry is not how, for example, Spirit may interpret Freemasonry. It's not how Nelson may encourage, or Nathan which is still, that's one of the fun things about it, right? Well, you don't have to mourn. I mean, I don't think anybody has to mourn. Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, Mr. Keeps. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. You're at 66%. Right? I mean, I think the issue with truth is always whose truth, what is truth, right? That can become super challenging in terms of definitions. Even brotherly love, what does it mean to be? What does brotherly love actually mean? I think relief is probably the one in there that's the most consistently and easily defined. The other two, it can be a little bit more challenging. It can be a little bit more. I have my own ideas on it. Um, you know, uh, maybe though relief is the one that I would say I would try to lean towards the most in a lot of these circumstances. When I say relief, relief in the sense of um, giving people relief and mercy, even when they do things or say things with which I disagree. Or if nothing else, giving that relief and mercy to their family and friends who may miss them. I don't expect other people to do so. And even other Masons, right? Everybody practices Freemasonry or understands Freemasonry in their own way. Um, as much as I wish everybody agreed with me all the time, it's simply not the case. What can I do? Except try to become the best communicator I can. So hopefully I'm able to convince others of my beliefs. So then there you go. So then you're at least 33% on your way to being a Freemason, if not 66% with your belief in truth. Once we get to brotherly love, then there you go. Um, I mean, the Bible itself, I mean, again, not a religious expert. The Bible talks about brotherly love a little bit um, in terms of, it's a Greek term. I can't think what it's called now. It's going to bother me. Philia, right? Which I think is mentioned in the Bible. I think philia at some point. I don't know if that's the case, Nathan. I understand what you're trying to say, but I don't know if I put it that way. Okay, agape. So maybe that's the Latin word for it. Philia is the Greek word for it. Um, well, no, I would say, I mean, I'm sure in some cases he did, in other cases he didn't. But I would say is it's not up to the other person to display brotherly love. It's up to me to display brotherly love to them. So I can't worry about how other people treat me. I need to focus on the extent to and how I treat them. Even Masons who are at times not showing me brotherly love. Um, which has happened in the past. And there are times when I've not shown um, brotherly love to my Masons, and I've fallen short of that. In which cases, I've had to apologize and try to move on. Um, or I've tried to apologize to them and hope that they accept my apology, and then they move on. Um, right? I think that's the best approach. But it's not about, again, the reason why I say, and it's not, again, I feel like we're focusing uh, much more on one person as opposed to kind of the general point, which is um, whenever there's some type of sense, whenever there's some type of horrible act, a murder, we don't have to mourn it. We don't have to. People are allowed to feel whatever they want to feel, but we don't want to become numb to it or imagine that it's just part of life, right? It should never become just part of life, because once it becomes an accepted part of day to day life, well, then we're all at risk. right? Even Freemasons would be at risk, and they have been in the past. They've been targeted for violence by people who view Freemasonry in a negative light, right? Um, it's not the type of thing that we can become numb to or accepting of. Um, right, and that is again why one thing that did really bother me was when people say statements of things like there's a certain number of deaths that are acceptable for X or Y. It's like, well, once we start with this idea of what's acceptable, Freemasons could end up on that list. It's scary to think, but there's been many times historically when Freemasons have been targeted for violence. Even recently in Texas, it actually happened. Um, in I forget where in Texas, but I if I don't want others, if I don't want to be targeted for speaking about Freemasonry, then I cannot abide others being targeted for speaking about what they want to speak about, even if what they're speaking about I find pretty terrible. And there's yeah, again, because I remember growing up, like, so I'm in Windsor. Detroit is right across the river. They have Martin Luther King Boulevard in Detroit. The reason it's called Rosa Parks Boulevard. The reason they have Rosa Parks Boulevard in Detroit, I was told, is because sometime in the 80s or 90s, the Ku Klux Klan got a permit to do a public march, and the city, to support freedom of speech, let them march, but then renamed the street the Rosa Parks Boulevard as kind of a middle finger to them. I think that's the better way to deal with things like this. Kind of a troll in response, as opposed to, again, violence is just not the answer. It's just never the answer. It's too dangerous. And again, we don't want to become numb to it or accepting of it or think it's okay. Doesn't mean we have to mourn. Doesn't mean we have to feel bad or go on social media and post a bunch of stuff to get a bunch of likes, one or the other. But I think we'd never want to become numb to it or act like it's acceptable. Freemasonry is illegal, Funny Republican. It's illegal in some countries, such as Iran, I believe Qatar, and I believe Saudi Arabia. There is actually a Grand Lodge of Iran that meets in California. A bunch of Freemasons traveled to America after the takeover, the revolution, and formed Masonic lodges in California, actually, is where I believe they meet. It's called the Grand Lodge of Iran in Exile. And there are, even in countries where Freemasonry is illegal, sometimes there are lodges underground. Also, sometimes you will find lodges on military bases, in, for example, Qatar, keeping that tradition alive. And North Korea as well, yes. I don't know for sure, but I bet money it's illegal in North Korea. If you're feeling bad about Charlie's death and don't know why, but again, mystical, I wouldn't say I'm feeling bad about it in an emotional sense. Like, I didn't know him. I wasn't a fan of his rhetoric. It's more, I guess I just feel sad that not just him, again, the woman on the train, when there's a school shooting, whatever it is, right? It's just, you just feel sad because it's people. And you don't want to become numb to that or act like it's not a big deal. But again, it could be anything, right? It's not one person we're referring to, or at least it's not one person I'm thinking of. Also, Hong Kong, mainland Hong Kong, or sorry, not Hong Kong, mainland China, it's illegal. It exists in Hong Kong, it exists in Macau, but in mainland China, technically it's illegal, although I understand there are some lodges that meet there. I don't know about that though, mystical. God created certain people for salvation. I mean, that sounds, again, I don't know what faith you are. That sounds to me I can't imagine God creating certain people for salvation and others for destruction. I feel like people are neither created for salvation nor destruction. It feels to me like people are created, hopefully, to make the world a better place. Um, well, so women. So when I speak of Freemasonry, funny Republican, normally what I'm speaking of is the fraternal order. So like my Masonic lodge, men, it's men exclusive. Women can't join. However, there is the Order of Women Freemasons and the Eastern Star, both of which are Masonic orders for women. And actually, one of the areas I think we in Freemasonry most fell down in is not um, showing enough attention or love to our, I guess, our brothers or sisters, if you will, in the Order of Women Freemasons. I don't know about that, mystical. I'm not quite sure what those numbers are, and um, the extent to which uh, political ideologies are complicated, right? Like famously, um, hello, Luca, welcome. The person who tried to assassinate President Trump apparently was a registered Republican voter, but donated $15, 1 5 to the Democrats. So what? Who knows what he like? It's very I don't know if anybody knows. Sometimes even this most recent political assassination, I keep hearing a lot of different things about what his beliefs were. Apparently, at one point he was a big Trump supporter. Now he hates Trump. Um, right. I don't know if he was or not. I don't want to put his name in the chat. I'm going to I hope you don't mind, Spirit. I'm going to remove that just because I don't want people thinking that they can do these type of things, and then even though his name is everywhere on social media, I worry that sometimes people do these things not out of political expediency one way or the other, but out of a desire to get famous or get well known. I think, unfortunately, in our Instagram, social media obsessed environment, we talked about it above, right? Like, it's this idea of if I do the most heinous, atrocious act, I'll get my name on social media. Um, People will talk about it. Having said that, I don't know if he was right or so. It's hard to say. What I've seen on the news, take it for what it's worth, is his family was very conservative and very supportive of Donald Trump. Um, at one point, he was as well. And then at some point while he was in college, he became left wing and became, I don't know about anti Trump, but I guess was very anti Charlie Kirk. Um, so, but again, did he hate? Who knows? But again, it also seemed like a lot of the stuff he was writing was just random, like internet memes, um, like the arrows, right? The arrows down, the arrows to the side. I guess that's something from the internet, like internet games. I don't know. I'm not ready to say for sure what his ideology was. It could be, again, he just wants attention, um, or wants to feel like he's who knows. Um, I mean, I've never been a Trump supporter personally. I speak exclusively for myself. Again, there are a lot of Freemasons who are there are a lot of Freemasons who are big Trump supporters. There are a lot who are not. Um, it's fine. Freemasonry is not political, right? So people have a lot of different views and opinions. Um, well, I heard he got a scholarship, right? I heard he got a scholarship to university, but then dropped out after 1 month. Um, So who knows? And the other thing to keep in mind is, again, I talk about with Freemasonry all the time, like it's very easy for people to fall into, well, I mean, no, I would ask the same question in fairness spirit. If somebody asked me, if I was in a chat and somebody asked me where I was, I would want to know why they want to know as well. I'd be curious about that. As a general rule, you know, uh, uh, try not to share, try not to share personal info on the stream. And I'll share my personal info about where I live and stuff. But let's not have people on the stream. You can give your country if you want. Well, so Mr. Keeps it does. He has said before that he is a fan of the York Rite on the stream. I'm not York Rite myself. I'm Scottish Rite. I do not, funny Republican. No, Nathan was asking that. I do not, funny. Manitoba, Ontario. I feel like Canadian. I feel like you're Canadian because I remember seeing the Funny Republican. I first thought you were from the States, but I could be wrong. But I'm going to guess Canadian somewhere. And if I'm wrong, I'm very, very sorry. Oh, so I was wrong. Illinois. I should remember that because I'm always talking about how much I love Illinois. I'm actually hoping very soon to become a um, honorary member of a lodge in Illinois. Believe me, if I do, I'll be talking about it a lot because it's a lodge I love visiting. It's one of my favorite places to visit. And becoming an honorary member would be, as the title says, an honor. That might be something we're talking about on the stream on Monday. The What are plural memberships, the different types of plural memberships, and um, like the positives and negatives, because a lot of Masons really love plural memberships, but a lot of Masons think they're actually damaging to the craft, and why that is, right? Plural memberships meaning being a member of more than one lodge. But yes, I know that Mr. Keeps did say in the past, if he ever joined Freemasonry, he would join to get to York Rite, which is a fine reason to join. I think he said on a stream a little while ago. However, I know that he also has expressed concerns about Freemasonry, which is fine as well. I just appreciate him being here very much, as I appreciate Spirit being here, as I appreciate Funny Republican and everybody else who's been a part of this stream. Okay, so your emulation ritual. But do you have Scottish Rite and York Rite, Nathan? Like, do you have Knights Templar in Australia? And oh my gosh, I can't remember all the degrees now of the York Rite. Um, Royal Master, Select Master. You got the Cryptic, Capitular, and Chivalric orders. It's also great to have somebody here from Australia. I love, I was going to say I love Australia. The fact is, I've never been to Australia, but I really want to go because I know a few Masons from Australia. They're all really cool people. I like them a lot. And I'd love to visit Australia. I hear, though, it's brutally hot all the time. And I get, I don't like the heat. I like snow and cold weather, so I don't know how well I do. Welcome, Rondo. How's it going? I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining. Okay, cool. Did you go York Rite or Scottish Rite, Nathan? I hope you don't mind my asking. And by the way, to everybody watching this, please take a moment, hit the like and subscribe button. Super Nintendo Chambers. So yeah, so Nathan, like I'm Scottish, right? I am 18th degree. Um, but it's interesting. I would love to see your ritual. I because I've seen obviously the Preston Webb, which is also sometimes referred to as York Rite, by the way. That can get confusing. But I've seen Preston Webb ritual or York Rite ritual, and I've seen um, um, emulation ritual. Obviously, my lodge is emulation ritual. That's always how it come up. I've never seen a mix of the two. That'd be really, really cool to see. Um, York 18th. So you're York 18th degree. So that is, if I'm trying to remember what it is now. Um, but that's cryptic, right? You're still cryptic. But I completely understand 100% the idea of focusing on your Blue Lodge. If you're a worshipful master in the Blue Lodge, then that absolutely is where your um, attention should be. I was kind of the same approach. I always assumed I was going to join Scottish Rite, but I chose to wait until after I got out of the East and was no longer worshipful master because I want to focus all my energies on being the worshipful master. So I get it, Nathan, and good for you. I think that's the right approach to take. But once again, Rondo, it's great to have you. Um, by the way, Mr. Keeps, if you're still there, as somebody who myself personally, I'm not as familiar with York Rite because I'm not a member. Now you got a Nathan in, so if you have any questions about York Rite, you can ask him. Maybe he'll have some answers. Keeping in mind, Australia is a different jurisdiction than America, so it's not going to be one for one. Right? There's going to be some differences, or Canada for that matter, or England for that matter. Oh, gotta love being on the river with a big straight road. People love to zoom by it. Well, the square and compasses, right? They in Masonic terms, symbolism, they represent a couple different things, but mostly it's this idea of keeping us within due bounds of all mankind, keeping us within due bounds of our brothers and the world at large. But the square and compasses have been around for a while, right? It's we don't know when the first appearance was precisely, but they started showing up in the late 16th and early 17th centuries. Um, let's give it another few minutes. I'm just going to wait to see who joins. It's been a fun stream. We got way more people on than I thought we would at first, which is awesome. Nathan, are you subscribed to the channel out of curiosity? And if you're not, I hope that you will subscribe. Thanks. Let me know what you thought of let me know what you thought of my points or any of the things I said. If you agree, if you disagree, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on. Well, let me know what you think of my thoughts. If you agree, disagree, what your thoughts are. Um, I guess if I had a um what's the word I'm looking for? If I had a theme to this chat to this stream in particular, it would be the idea that we're all rough ashlers. We're all trying to perfect ourselves, and part of perfecting ourselves is being respectful of the faults or the disagreements we have with others. I agree. By the way, Nathan, also, if you're interested, you can support me through Patreon. Patreon.com/square and compass. You can join for free, doesn't cost anything, and it's a great way to support the channel. And also, maybe one day you want to be on my podcast, because honestly, I've wanted to do an interview talking about Freemasonry in Australia, because it's something I know very little about. So maybe I'll get the chance to um, interview somebody at some point about it. It's on my list of things I'd like to do. That's a good approach to take. There's something to that, right? Or you could argue, if you want to use a Masonic metaphor, we all want to build the best world we can. We just disagree on the methods to use, the building methods to use. Might be a way to put that in a Masonic context as builders. But yeah, you're not incorrect. Masonry is great. I agree with that. Leading by example is great as well. Um, Mentorship is really important. That's a big thing that they're focusing on right now in Ontario. Is they're calling it REM, which now I got to remember what it all means. Ritual education mentorship, and focusing on all of those. So, and I agree with that. I think we need to focus on mentorship. We need to focus on a ritual, and we need to focus on our education. Um, and so you're not wrong. And leading by example is incredibly important. Well, that's where they got it from, right? So that was the cleverness of calling it REM, obviously, because it's a play on rapid eye movement. Um, the idea of ritual education mentorship. I think a lot of our lodges are not doing a good job with the mentorship idea. What's the big fight tomorrow? What's happening tomorrow? Is it MMA? I've been so busy with these streams, I haven't had a chance to know what's even going on. Oh, is it O'Malley versus I can't even pronounce this. Dolishivy? Canelo versus Crawford. So obviously not because I didn't know about it. Uh, I mean, I don't really watch a lot of sports. I don't really watch a lot of boxing. Um, I really watch professional wrestling, but I'm trying to get into boxing, mostly so I can throw hands. So if anything ever gets too real on the stream and I have somebody chasing me, I can deal with it. Though I'm sure I just get my ass beat, being with no legs. Mentorship is a major failure. Uh, yeah, no, I think a lot of jurisdictions, Nathan, are struggling with mentorship. Not exclusively Australia by any means. So don't feel like you're alone in that one, but we're working on it. And mentorship means a lot of different things, by the way. Mentorship doesn't just mean mentoring and ritual, it means mentoring in how a lodge operates financially, how a lodge operates administratively, how a lodge operates socially, how to run a meeting successfully, how the building operates and the taxes on the building and the administrative duties of the building, and how to be a decent junior warden, how to make sure you have food for everybody. Like there are so many ways to mentor. I think one area where we fell down in, Nathan, was we focused so much of our mentorship efforts on the idea of ritual and perfect ritual, and we did not spend near enough time focusing on the administrative tasks and social aspects of the craft, or not even social, the administrative and what's the term? I guess I just say administrative. The administrative tasks that allow a lodge to function. A lot of people have no idea what those are or how they work, even though they are as important. Rondo, you don't have to tell me about REM sleep, sir. I grew up watching A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. I grew up watching A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5. I promise you, I know all about REM sleep. One of I love the Nightmare on Elm Street films. I love all the Nightmare on Elm Street films, but especially Part 4 and 5. But I remember Part 1 when Heather Langenkamp's Nancy Thompson was in the Dream Clinic, the hospital. It's crazy to think if you watch that scene, Ronnie Blakely, who played Nancy Thompson's mother, was actually like smoking um, in the hospital, which talk about dating a movie. Let's give it another 10 minutes or so, maybe 5. Well, Freddie is a part of this whole initiative in the sense that I love Nightmare on Elm Street. I love scary movies. I don't love scary movies or Nightmare on Elm Street as much as I love Freemasonry. But when I am struggling and have no motivation to do anything, I ask myself WWAJD, which is what would Alice Johnson do? If you don't know, Alice Johnson was the lead character in A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4 and Part 5. And that gives me the courage, the energy to keep on live streaming and keep on going. If you've never seen the Power Up stream from A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, you are missing out. Because it's a great clip, great moment. Well, no, but maybe Alice Johnson is. No, Freddy was not about those things. Though again, I don't know, Rondo, did I show you guys my horror movie collection? I do. I loved that scene. Wanna suck face, is what Freddy Krueger says. That was Toy Newkirk, who played Sheila. Let me tell you, Spirit, like here, I'm going to show you guys this stuff. Look what you've started now. You started the whole thing. Give me 1 second. This is my horror movie book. You can see on there, I've got Elm Street. I've got Nightmare on Elm Street. Even this tattoo. Oh my gosh, how am I going to show this to you guys? Let me see if I can do this. I'm trying to... There you go. You can kind of see it. That is a street sign that says Elm Street in honor of A Nightmare on Elm Street. And then in the corner of the street sign is a spider's web. And that comes from... oh my gosh. I gotta find that quote. We are like the spider. We weave our life and then move along in it. We are like the dreamer who dreams and then lives in the dream. This is true for the entire universe. I really like that quote. But then we have here, this is a picture of me with Robert Englund. That's me in the middle, and that's Lisa Wilcox, who played Alice Johnson. That's her signature there. I got this at Flashback Horror Weekend. This is me with Nancy Thompson, Heather Langenkamp. That's her signature there. Let's see. Oh, I know about these movies, Spirit. I have seen, oh my God, I've probably seen A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, Part 5 a million times. Maybe not a million times. Dozens and dozens. It got to be in the hundreds. This is from A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. Once again, Andres Jones, Lisa Wilcox. And then this, Kelly Jo Minter from A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5. And I've got way more of these. And I've got a mug from the Crave Inn, signed by which is the fictional diner in which Alice Johnson worked, signed by Lisa Wilcox. We're going to give it a couple more minutes. I'm just curious to see who else is going to join. It's been a blast. I'll probably be ending this stream soon. I will be back on Monday with a brand new stream at 1 p.m. And before that, though, Sunday at 7 p.m., it's going to be the same thing. We'll be with my good friend, worship brother Igor Strukin, and we're going to be watching a movie. So please make sure you join us for that. You know what? I still have not seen Sinners, and I feel bad about that because I'm always talking about how much I love horror movies, and I've just been so busy. It looks great. I would say in terms of horror movie monsters, vampires are my favorite. I grew up watching Angel and loving it, so it's on my list, believe me. Nice. Well, let me know what you think of them when you see it. Maybe I hope you'll join my stream on Sunday at 7 p.m. You'll get to see a good friend of mine. We'll be hanging out together. It'll be a lot of fun. Never seen Tales from the Hood either, so I'm really letting myself down here. That's another one. There's some, I would say, there's probably 4 or 5 horror movies that I've never watched that I feel like I have to. Sinners is the most recent. The Phantasm series, never watched. Tales from the Hood, never watched either. And so I feel like I've really let myself down a little bit with those ones. As a quote unquote horror fan, I got to work on that. All right, guys, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you, everybody, for joining. We're going to be ending the stream now. I will be back Sunday, 7 p.m. I hope that you'll take a few moments to, like, if you're not done so, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Don't worry, I'll be back on Monday. And in the meantime, let's be nice to each other. Let's be good to each other. And let's remember we're all rough ashlers trying in whatever way we can to perfect ourselves. All right, guys. See y'all very soon, I hope.